The arrival nobody saw coming. The sky over Arizona was quiet until midnight. Then, without warning, something bright and blue tore through the clouds like a burning arrow. People woke up across towns, staring out of windows, watching a strange fireball moving too slow to be a meteor, too fast to be a plane. News channels showed the same footage again and again. Blue flames falling to earth and vanishing somewhere in the desert. The next morning, the military had sealed the area. Number one could get close. Rumors spread online. Some said it was a satellite. Others believed it was a secret weapon test. A few said it looked alien. But no one knew the truth. Inside the crash zone, something unexpected happened. From the center of a cracked silver pod, a figure stepped out. Thin, glowing, and barely able to walk, it was a girl. Not human. Not entirely. Her skin was soft blue. Her eyes deep silver. Her hair floated like mist. She looked like something from a dream or a nightmare. But what stood out most was not her beauty, it was the pain on her face. She collapsed after walking only 10 steps. Soldiers rushed in. Scientists followed. Cameras rolled. She whispered one word before losing consciousness. No one could understand it except the translator. The word was danger. The news never showed her. Officials denied she existed. The public was told it was just space debris. But one man knew what he saw. Ethan wasn't a soldier or a scientist. He cleaned floors in the facility where she was taken. He had seen strange things in his life, but nothing like her. Ethan wasn't the kind of man people noticed. Quiet, alone, just doing his job. But when he looked into the alien girl's eyes through the glass chamber, something inside him stirred. Not fear, not confusion, something else. Trust. Like she was asking him for help without words. The doctors ran tests. They called her sick, confused, unstable. They didn't listen when she spoke again. She said the same word again and again. Danger. Then she said more. They are coming. I ran from them. You must listen. But the general said she was hallucinating. Ethan watched from behind the cleaning droids. He saw how she panicked when they brought bright lights near her. He noticed how her skin glowed more when she was calm. And he saw how her eyes followed him whenever he entered the room. She trusted no one else. Only him. That night, he did something dangerous. He stayed after hours and snuck into the lab. She was awake, staring at the ceiling. When she saw him, she slowly sat up. He whispered, "Can you understand me?" She nodded once. Then she placed her hand on the glass and said something soft. It didn't sound like any human language, but somehow Ethan understood. "You are not like them," she said. Ethan felt cold. How could she speak like that? He whispered again, "Why are you here?" She looked at him, her silver eyes shaking. "Your world is not ready," she said, "but they will come anyway." "Who?" Ethan asked. She closed her eyes. "The Striders. They took my planet. They eat suns. I ran to find someone who would believe me." Ethan didn't know what to say. This was too big, too strange. But he didn't doubt her. Her voice wasn't lying. Her fear wasn't fake. The next morning, Ethan overheard the generals talking. They were planning to move her to a secret location and start mind experiments. They said she was a danger. They wanted to erase her memories, make her safe. Ethan knew what that meant. She would disappear. No one would know. No one would remember. That night, he made his choice. He hid in a service tunnel near the lab. He waited for the guards to change. And then, just before sunrise, he opened the glass chamber and held out his hand. She stared at him. "Are you ready to believe?" she asked. He nodded. "I already do." Without another word, she stepped out. Her legs shook. Ethan helped her walk. Alarms started within minutes, but they were already outside. As they ran into the desert, the sun began to rise behind them. But the true danger wasn't coming from behind. It was still far away, moving through space, faster than light, heading straight for Earth. And only two people knew what was coming: a human janitor and an alien girl who had traveled 369 light years. Just to warn him, only one believed her. The world had moved on. News of the crash faded. People returned to their lives. But somewhere in the silent desert, two figures kept walking: one human, one alien, both carrying a secret no one else wanted to believe. The alien girl, Rina, was weak. Every step looked like it might be her last. Her skin flickered as if her body was powered by something running out. But she kept going because Ethan walked beside her. He didn't understand everything, but he knew one thing: she wasn't lying. And whatever was coming, it was real. They found shelter in an abandoned supply hut near an old research station. There was no power, just dust and shadows. Ethan wrapped Rina in his jacket and tried to start a small fire. She watched him silently, like she had been alone for too long and didn't know how to trust the quiet. "Why me?" Ethan finally asked. Rina looked at him. "Because when I spoke, you didn't laugh. You listened." Ethan didn't know how to answer that. All his life he'd been the one ignored, passed over, forgotten. He cleaned floors while people in suits talked about saving the world. But none of them believed the warning. And now, the fate of Earth sat in a dusty hut with a girl from another star. As the night grew colder, Rina spoke again. This time, her voice was steady. "I saw planets vanish, oceans boiled." Voices turned to silence. "The Striders feed on stars, but they don't stop there. They take what lives in the light." Ethan stared at her. "How far behind are they?" She closed her eyes. "Closer than you think." The next day, drones passed overhead. The military was searching, not for her safety but for control. Rina had seen too much. Her words were dangerous to the ones who feared the truth. They moved again, deeper into the hills. Ethan used back roads and old supply pads he remembered from years ago. Each night, Rina grew a little colder. She tried to hide it, but Ethan noticed. Her skin was dimmer, her breath slower. "What's wrong with you?" he asked gently. "My body isn't built for your gravity." "It's breaking me slowly," she replied. "The journey was too long. My core is unstable." "Then why come here at all?" he whispered. She looked at him with tired eyes. "Because someone had to." As they rested beneath the rocks, Rina removed a strange device from her arm. Small metallic ring glowing faintly. "This is why I'm still alive," she said. "It's a stabilizer. But it won't last much longer." Ethan touched it carefully. It was warm, almost alive. Rina suddenly grabbed his wrist and turned his hand over. A faint mark glowed under his skin, a shape, like a circle with a slash through it. "You were chosen," she said quietly. "The ship marked you. That means the defense system on Earth might respond to you. They don't know it. But you were the backup plan." Ethan pulled his hand away. "I'm just a janitor." "You're more now," she said. Back at the military base, a meeting was underway. They had tracked Ethan's ID signal. They knew he had helped the alien girl escape. They called him unstable, a traitor. Orders were given. Find them, capture them, silence them. But out in the wild, Ethan and Rina found something else. While walking near a canyon edge, Rina suddenly stopped. "This is the place," she said. Ethan looked around. "What place?" "The memory beacon. I dropped it before I crashed. It holds the proof. Everything I saw, every world destroyed, it's in there." They dug for hours, hands dirty, bodies tired. And then they found it, a small cube pulsing softly. When Rina touched it, It lit up and began to float. Ethan stared in awe as images shimmered in the air, planets falling apart, stars dying, strange black ships moving like shadows through the void. "This is what's coming," she said. "And now you've seen it too." The ground suddenly shook. A sound, distant but growing rotor blades, drones, vehicles. They were surrounded. Rinna looked at him. "You still believe me?" Ethan didn't hesitate. More than ever. She placed the cube in his hands, then run. Asterisk hunted by their own. The humans chasing them didn't wear alien faces. They wore familiar uniforms, their boots pressed into Earth's soil. Their orders came not from some distant planet, but from behind tall walls and hidden screens. The real danger wasn't just from the stars. It had already started here. With fear and silence, Ethan ran. The beacon cube pulsed in his hands like a heart made of light. Rinna was behind him, her steps slow, her body struggling against gravity. Above, black drones cut through the sky like hungry birds. They weren't looking to ask questions. They were looking to erase problems. He led Rinna into the narrow cracks between the canyon walls. His breath burned in his chest, but he didn't stop. He couldn't. She had given him proof, real, clear proof, and now the people who claimed to protect Earth wanted to destroy it. A message echoed from a drone speaker above. "Surrender the asset. The girl is sick. You are endangering national safety. Surrender peacefully." But Ethan had already learned the truth. They didn't want peace. They wanted control. And if the cost was silence, they'd bury the truth along with her. They hid deep inside an old mine shaft. Cold air and darkness surrounded them. Rinna collapsed to the ground. Her skin flickered dim like a dying light bulb. Ethan dropped beside her, checking her pulse. "I'm fine," she whispered. "Just out of time." "No, you're not dying." "Here," he said. She smiled weakly. "You're a strange human. Most run from what they don't understand. You ran toward it." Ethan held the cube up. Can it be used to stop them?" She shook her head. "Not by itself, but if you find the right place, it will speak." "What place?" he asked. Her hand touched his. "There's a signal buried deep beneath your planet, an old one. I don't know where exactly, but the cube will find it if you stay close." Outside, the noise of approaching engines rumbled through the rocks. They didn't have long. Ethan used an old map from the mine's wall lines leading to forgotten tunnels that exited miles away. They moved slowly, Rinna leaning against him. The cube glowed brighter the deeper they went. Something in the earth responded to it, old tech, forgotten signals, maybe something ancient left behind by a different species long ago. Hours passed. When they finally emerged from the tunnels, the desert sky had turned orange. Dust filled the air. A drone buzzed past them without seeing them. For now they were free, but the net was tightening. Rinna could barely stand now. Ethan wrapped her in a blanket and placed her on a stolen hoverbike. He didn't know where he was heading, but the cube reacted whenever he moved west. That was their only clue. Behind them, the news played its usual tricks. The crash was now being called an experiment gone wrong. Ethan was named a possible domestic threat. Rinna was not mentioned at all. She had been erased from the story, but in reality, she was the only thing standing between Earth and its destruction. They stopped near an old solar power station in ruins. The cube buzzed and floated on its own, flying toward a stone wall. As Ethan followed, a part of the wall cracked open metal beneath the rock. Old and untouched. Inside, a dark chamber came to life. Lights flickered on, symbols glowed. Rinna smiled faintly. "This is it," she whispered. Ethan helped her inside. The air smelled different here, like metal and lightning. The beacon floated to the center and projected the same images again. But this time, something new appeared. A map of Earth, a red line pointing far north. A relay station, Rena said. One of the last my people left behind. It can send warnings through space, but it needs your signal. Why mine? He asked. Because the ship marked you. Not by mistake. It knew you'd listen. Outside, the sound of helicopters grew louder. Soldiers would find them soon. Time was slipping away. Earth was asleep, and its only alarm clock was nearly out of breath. As Rena leaned back, her skin began to dim again. If I die, she said softly, you must keep going. Even if no one believes you, even if you stand alone. Ethan looked at her. You're not dying, not while I breathe. For the first time, her eyes closed not in pain, but in trust. She knew she had finally found what she'd traveled 369 light years to reach, not an army, not a scientist, but one stubborn human who still believed in doing what was right, even if it meant being hunted by his own. Asterisk, the proof buried in the sand. Truth doesn't always roar like thunder. Sometimes it hides in silence, buried under dust and lies waiting for someone brave enough to dig it out. For Ethan and Rena, the truth was glowing in a small cube. But to the world, it was just a rumor, something easier to ignore than to face. The desert wind howled as the hoverbike moved across dry land. Rena lay against Ethan's back, her breathing slow, her skin colder than ever. The cube in Ethan's pocket pulsed steadily, like it knew where it was going. It was leading them somewhere old, somewhere forgotten. They had no map, no help, no food, but the cube didn't stop glowing. And Ethan didn't stop believing. By the time they reached the edge of the southern desert, night had fallen. Stars above shone bright, unaware of the danger creeping toward them. Rena stirred slightly, her voice barely more than a whisper. This is the place. Ethan looked around. It was empty. Just hills of sand, dry rocks, and silence. But the cube floated from his hand and started spinning mid-air, beaming soft blue lights into the ground. A circular shape appeared beneath the sand. Ancient metal, buried deep. Ethan started digging with his hands. Each movement sent dust into the air. His fingers bled, but he didn't stop. Rena, too weak to stand, watched with tired eyes. Then he hit something hard. Beneath the sand was a hatch. Round, rusted, and old. He pulled it open. A platform rose up, revealing what looked like a small station covered in alien symbols. Rena tried to speak but coughed instead. He carried her inside. The station was dark, but as soon as the cube entered, it lit up. Lights flickered to life. Screens glowed. For the first time, the beacon fully activated. The room filled with images, planets shattering, stars collapsing, ships like shadows moving through space. Ethan stood frozen. It was worse than anything he had imagined. He saw entire civilizations disappear in seconds. Cities turned to ash. Voices screaming. And then silence. Then came the final image. Earth. A digital countdown appeared above it. Rena gasped. It's begun. What is this? Ethan asked. The tracker signal. It means the Striders have locked on to your planet. They are coming faster than before. Ethan's heart sank. And no one knows. No one but us, she said. The beacon also showed a communication tower, deep underground, one of the last remaining defense systems placed by Rena's ancestors. But it was sealed, buried after the last war between galaxies. Only someone chosen by the cube could open it. Rena looked at Ethan. You have to go there. It's the only way to send a warning to other systems, maybe get help. Once activated, it could push the Striders away, or at least slow them down. Ethan nodded. But just as they started planning their next move, alarms screamed through the station. The military had found them. Outside, black trucks rolled up. Spotlights lit the desert. Soldiers stepped out in rows, wearing helmets and carrying rifles. A voice echoed, "Ethan Miles, you are under arrest. Surrender immediately. The girl is property of Earth Defense Command." Ethan clenched his fists. "Property?" he whispered. "She came to warn us, and you treat her like a lab rat?" Rinna coughed again, weaker than before. "Go, save your people." Ethan helped her stand. "I'm not leaving you." Suddenly, the cube reacted to Ethan's emotions. It expanded, forming a shield of light around them. A strange hum echoed in the air. The soldiers stepped back, startled. Ethan looked down at his arm. The strange mark had begun glowing again. Brighter than ever, he turned to Rinna. "I don't know what's happening to me. You're becoming what they didn't expect a human who doesn't run." The soldiers started to open fire, but the shield held. Ethan activated the beacon's last function. A small pod rose from the ground, an escape module linked to the ancient tower. He placed Rinna inside. She looked at him with fear and hope. "We may not make it," she said. "But we'll try," he replied. As the pod launched underground, the desert above exploded in chaos, military shouting, light burning, and a secret now too loud to hide. In that moment, Earth had a chance. Not because of its weapons, not because of its leaders, but because one forgotten janitor chose to believe the girl everyone else ignored. And he chose to dig up the truth buried in the sand. Asterisk, the first attack begins. The stars above Earth had always looked peaceful, bright, silent, eternal. But peace is just the space between storms, and this time the storm was already in motion. It started small. A weather satellite stopped sending data. Then a moon-based camera went dark. At first, officials blamed technical errors. But soon, 2 more stations vanished. Quietly, without a single signal. Just gone. Some scientists whispered warnings. Others demanded silence. The public never heard the truth. They were told it was all normal. But Rinna knew. Ethan knew. The countdown had begun. Deep underground, in a forgotten alien station beneath the desert, Ethan watched the beacon's red timer flash again and again. The number had dropped below 30 hours. That was all the time Earth had left before the first contact with the Striders. Rinna lay on a small bench, her body barely holding on. Her blue glow had faded to a pale shimmer. Every breath looked like it might be her last. "You need rest," Ethan said. She shook her head. "You need to move." He didn't want to leave her, but the beacon had shown the location of the defense relay. It was built long ago by her people, hidden under Earth's crust. "Sealed until now. You're the only one it will open for," Rinna whispered. Ethan didn't understand how or why he was chosen. He had no training, no power. But he was marked. And that meant he had to try. He used the old alien pod system to reach the relay. As he traveled, the ground above Earth trembled. Not from earthquakes, but from something moving in space. The first Strider scout arrived near Mars. It didn't look like a ship. It looked like a wound in the sky. Black, wide, silent. It stretched open like a mouth, swallowing signals and light. And then it disappeared, leaving behind silence and broken machines. Earth's space fleet tried to respond. Fighters launched. Lasers fired. Nothing worked. The enemy didn't fight back. It didn't need to. Back on Earth, world leaders panicked behind closed doors. They still didn't admit the truth to the public, but fear grew. News stations hinted at strange solar activity. Civilian satellites caught glimpses of the darkness. Online forums exploded with rumors. Only one man knew exactly what was coming. And he was far below the surface, running through tunnels built before Earth even knew what stars were. Ethan reached the defense relay. It looked like a massive stone gate covered in glowing runes. As he stepped forward, The mark on his arm began to shine. The gate responded. It opened, revealing a chamber filled with ancient machines. A voice echoed through the room, not Rinna's voice, not human either. It was the memory of the ancestors who left this weapon behind. Chosen bearer, upload warning code. Begin planetary shield. Ethan placed the beacon into the core. The lights flashed. Energy surged through the walls. But then everything stopped. A screen lit up. A message in alien symbols translated automatically. Core. Damage. Shield incomplete. Ethan's stomach dropped. What does that mean? The system replied. Power core decayed. Defense grid only 17% operational. Option. Emergency burst protocol. What's that? He asked. High risk signal. May push invaders. Will drain core. One use only. Activation requires mutual DNA key. Ethan froze. Mutual DNA? You mean me and Rinna? The system replied, confirmed. One human, one Illyrian, linked by bond. Bond? He had no idea what that meant. But he knew one thing, he couldn't do it without her. And she didn't have much time. He raced back through the tunnel as the ground shook above. The Striders were moving closer. Their shadows already touched the moon. Earth sensors finally caught a glimpse, and panic erupted worldwide. Cities lost power for seconds at a time. Skies flickered with strange light. Oceans changed color for brief moments. Something invisible was brushing against the planet's edge, and it was hungry. Ethan reached Rinna. She was colder now. Her pulse slow. He dropped beside her. They need us, he said. Both of us. The system won't work without you. She opened her eyes barely. Then take me. He carried her back into the chamber. The moment they stepped into the core, the system lit up again. Mutual link detected. Activating burst protocol. Ethan held her hand. Will this kill us? Rinna looked at him, smiling faintly. We came this far. Let's finish it together. They placed their hands on the console. The beacon dissolved into light. Energy filled the room, burning, loud, alive. A pulse launched from the Earth's core, shooting through the skies. In space, the black wound paused. The pulse hit it like lightning, silent but powerful. The mouth closed. The shadows began to scatter. Earth had spoken. And for the first time, the Striders stepped back. It wasn't a full victory, but it was a warning. Earth was not helpless, and the message was clear. One human, one alien, and the power of belief was enough to shake even the darkest enemy. Ethan's awakening. Heroes aren't born in the light. They rise in the dark when no one's watching and when the world has already given up on them. Ethan never asked to be anything more than invisible. But now, the fate of Earth had changed because of him. And something inside him was changing too. After the pulse, silence spread through the stars. For the first time in days, the dark sky stopped flickering. Satellites returned online. Communication stabilized. The enemy had backed off for now. Across the planet, no one knew why the threat vanished. The news called it solar interference. Governments pretended they fixed it, but deep underground, Ethan was barely conscious, lying on the cold metal floor of the alien chamber. Rinna was beside him, still and quiet. The pulse had drained everything from them. Even the air felt heavy. When Ethan opened his eyes, something was different. Colors were brighter. The hum of the Earth's core echoed in his head. He could feel energy, real, living energy moving through the walls, through the ground, even through Rinna's weak heartbeat. He sat up, confused. His skin glowed faintly. The mark on his arm had spread now, covering his entire forearm like a tattoo made of light. And in his chest, something burned, not pain, not heat, but power. Rinna opened her eyes slowly. She looked at him and smiled. It worked. What happened to me? Ethan asked, his voice shaking. You accepted the bond. The beacon didn't just use you, it changed you. Now you are part Illyrian. Ethan stood, trying to breathe. But I'm human. You were, she said. Now you are both. His body felt stronger, his senses sharper. And inside his mind, knowledge flowed, memories from her people, data from the beacon, maps of systems he had never heard of. He could even understand her language now without translation. I'm not ready for this, he whispered. No one ever is, Rena replied. But the universe doesn't wait. He helped her up. Her strength was returning slowly. The beacon's power had given her a second chance too. But there wasn't time to rest. A signal came from the alien systems. A warning. The Striders hadn't retreated out of fear. They had paused to study Earth. And now their second wave was forming. But there was a message hidden in the data stream, an old Illyrian code sent from somewhere near Saturn. It was weak, broken, but clear. Survivor requesting contact. Rena's eyes widened. Another one of my kind. Alive? Ethan stared at the message. Then we're not alone in this. But they needed to reach that signal fast. Earth's defenses were still down. The Pulse had bought time, but not enough. The military still didn't trust them. They were still fugitives. Ethan looked at his glowing arm. I can't walk into a city like this, Rena nodded. Then we don't walk. We fly. In the old Illyrian chamber, one last function remained. A hidden vessel, small, fast, designed for escape. Ethan activated it with his hand. The ship lit up instantly, responding to his new DNA dot. They climbed inside. The ship read their connection and adjusted the controls. It wasn't just flying, it was like the ship breathed with them. As they left Earth's surface, alarms blared from military radar. But they were already gone too fast, too high, already reaching the edge of space. The stars stretched ahead like a road waiting for travelers. Ethan's eyes burned with purpose. He was no longer running. He was reaching. Rena touched his hand. You're changing more every hour. Can you feel it? He nodded. I don't know who I'm becoming. You're becoming what Earth needs, she said. A bridge between two worlds. Behind them, Earth looked small, quiet, peaceful. But ahead, in the shadows of the outer planets, something stirred. Ethan could feel it. Not fear, but something deeper. A connection to the enemy. A strange echo in his thoughts. They know me now, he whispered. They felt the pulse, and they'll come back for me. Then we face them together, Rena replied. But Ethan wasn't the same man who once mopped floors and walked past generals. He had awakened, touched by alien light, bound by belief, and chosen by something bigger than fate. And now, he was ready to fight. Asterisk, when the sky falls, two stand alone. Some wars begin with explosions. Others begin with silence. This one began with a whisper from the stars, and now it would end in fire. The Striders had returned. No longer scouts, no longer silent. They came as black storms across the solar system. Jupiter's moons disappeared without a sound. Mars cracked open like dry stone. And Earth, still unaware of the truth, watched helplessly as the sky began to change. Governments tried to launch countermeasures. Missiles were fired. Spacecraft scrambled to respond, but nothing could touch the enemy. The Striders didn't attack like soldiers. They moved like hunger-eating light, crushing sound, erasing matter. But in the dark, two lights still burned. Ethan and Rena hovered above the Earth in their Illyrian ship. The signal from Saturn had led them to an abandoned research outpost, now floating near the edge of space. Inside they had found her, a female Illyrian soldier, barely alive, hiding inside a shattered stasis pod. Her name was Velen, and she was the last commander of Rena's lost fleet. I thought you all were gone, Rena whispered. We were, Velen said weakly. But I stayed behind for this moment. She handed them the final piece of the beacon, a lost key, something the first defense grid had been missing. But Velen was too weak to fight. Her body had been torn by exposure. Her last words were, "Simple. Finish what we started." As Velen passed, a signal pulsed from the outpost triggering the final stage of the Illyrian failsafe system, a weapon hidden not on Earth. But inside the sun, Rena turned to Ethan, her eyes filled with both awe and dread. "They built a solar flare engine inside your star. If we trigger it, we can push the Striders out of the system." "But what's the cost?" Ethan asked Dot. She didn't answer right away. If the charge goes too far, it could burn everything. Even Earth. That's why it needs control. Someone to guide the energy. Someone connected to the beacon. Someone like you. Ethan understood immediately. "You mean I go in alone?" She nodded. "Not alone. With me." Their hands met. The bond between them flared. No longer just alien and human. No longer just runaway and believer. They had become something else. Something the Striders didn't understand, two souls bound not by blood, but by choice. They guided the ship into the sun's orbit. Around them, fire danced like living waves. Heat didn't touch them. The beacon's energy. Shield kept them alive, but not forever. The weapon core floated just above the solar surface. It was pure Illyrian design, massive, ancient, still glowing after all these years. Ethan reached for it. The moment his hand touched the interface, memory surged into his head. He saw galaxies fall, stars collapse. He saw the day Rena left. Her home, alone, knowing she might never return. He saw his own life, all the days he spent unnoticed. And now it all made sense. The weapon responded. A solar pulse gathered. The Striders turned, sensing the threat. One of their largest ships lunged toward the sun, racing to stop the flare before it could ignite. Rena screamed as the pressure rose. "It's too much!" Ethan's body was breaking. The light inside him was too strong. But he didn't stop. He turned to her, smiling even through the pain. "Tell Earth we were real." And then he closed his eyes. The flare launched. A scream. A fire and light ripped through space. It was not just heat. It was hope, unleashed in its rawest form. The Striders tried to stop it. They failed.